Hi friends, Brian Tinsman here, founder of Pounce Solutions and longtime Loudoun County resident, dad, marketer, and storyteller. Today, I get to share something that's been in the works for a while, and I could not be more excited. We're officially launching Loudoun Now Voice with our friends at Loudoun Now, a brand new video and audio platform that expands the news and commentary offerings of Loudoun Now, the county's essential source for independent, nonprofit local journalism. This is more than just a new way to deliver the news, it's a movement. It's a megaphone for the conversations that matter most to the people who live, work, and play right here in Loudoun County. And Pounce Solutions is proud to power that platform. We're providing access to enterprise-level recording tools, a powerful production studio, and the operational support needed to bring this vision to life. For Loudoun Now, this opens the door to consistent, high-quality video content and on-demand audio storytelling. For the community, it means more voices, transparency, and connection. And yes, we're putting our money where our mic is. As part of this platform, Pounce Solutions is launching a new podcast under the Loudoun Now Voice banner, hosted by yours truly. A few times a month, I'll sit down with someone who is making an impact in our county. Loudoun County has a way of shaping people, whether they've lived here their whole life or passed through on their way to something else. And I want to help share those stories. So, we've got business leaders, artists, nonprofits, champions, authors, local legends, and maybe even a few rabble-rousers on the docket. We live in one of the most fascinating places in the country. This podcast is my chance to help capture that richness and make sure the stories that we tell reflect the full spectrum of life here in Loudoun. And there's no better place to start that than with our first guest, Renss Greene, the Executive Director for Loudoun Community Media, and a key force behind Loudoun Now's continued growth. You probably know Renss from his years of covering local government as a reporter and a deputy editor for Loudoun Now, and moderating election forums, hosting the Morning Minute. You've seen him out and about. But in this episode, we're going to turn the mic around and get to know his story, his vision, and what he sees as the future of local media. Spoiler alert, that vision is hyper-local, high integrity, and community-powered. That's exactly what Loudoun Now Voice is all about. I'm especially proud that this storytelling platform creates new opportunities for nonprofits and small businesses, the people I love supporting through my work with Pounce, and to share their message and extend their voice in a meaningful way. You can find this show wherever you get your podcasts, and of course, right here on the Loudoun Now website. Follow Pounce's work at pouncesolutions.com. Connect with us on social media for more marketing, communications, and problem-solving insights. We're just getting started. I hope you'll join us. Here's Renss. Well, hey, Renss, how's it going?
It's going great. How are you?
Doing great, man. Thank you for joining me today and for, of course, joining us on this adventure into a new medium. So tell me a little bit about Loudoun Now Voice.
So we've got one of the largest platforms in Loudoun County, right? There's a lot of people who visit our website, read our reporting and stuff like that. We wanted to use that platform also as a further service to the community, essentially to allow people to put their voices out there, to elevate voices and use our platform to get their views out there. So that might be something like one of our new programs, Tales and Ales, where I've been going and speaking to people who are storytellers at this storytelling event and hearing more about the story behind the story. They have about 8 minutes on stage, but there's always a lot more to that story. But there's a lot of places as well for someone who, for example, who's an expert in their field. So if you are the best plumber in Loudoun County and you want to establish yourself as that expert on that topic, and you also want to help people know how not to destroy their pipes, by doing silly things like, I'm sure, pouring grease down the drain is one they see all the time, then we have this platform here where you can, with relative ease, because we've also set up some tools to make that very easy for folks to do with no real technical knowledge. It's essentially a fancy Zoom call as far as those folks are concerned. It lets them get their voice out there, build their reputation, and connect to the community using a built-in platform and tools to create that programming.
So you're basically putting out a call to all novice podcasters and video celebrities, but this is something that you've been doing for quite a long time. I mean, the Loudoun Now Morning Minute dates back to your first stint with Loudoun Now. So what's it like for that to come full circle for you?
Yeah, so years ago, I was a deputy editor of Loudoun Now. I left for a while, worked in nonprofit communications. Now I'm back as the executive director. And yeah, I can testify for myself that it's a great platform to do stuff like that. For many years before, and now it's back. Now that I'm back, we've done a podcast called The Morning Minute, which is just a quick hit of daily headlines, and generally in the range of 6 to 12 minutes is about how long it is every weekday morning. But at the same time, I think the cadence for folks who want to start shows on this platform is probably not having to do it every day. They could probably swing it once a month or so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is a thing that, absolutely. But you're absolutely right that this is a kind of field that as we've been putting it together more and as we've been talking to different partners who are putting shows on the platform and so forth, it kind of feels like something we should have done a long time ago because it's just a great marrying of, hey, we can help you with the technical tools in large part through your help, Brian. We can help you with the platforming, and there's lots of people out there that have something to say, but they don't really have a great way to get it out there.
So true. And I think where Pounce really plugs into this is just going back to those conversations that we had earlier this year. Just what would you do and how would you do it if you could do it? And the technology from when you started the Morning Minute several years ago to where it is now is just leaps and bounds ahead. I mean, I don't know that it was necessarily possible to do the type of video recording and for us to have this type of Zoom call environment. So yeah, I mean, it really couldn't be easier, and it's something that we wanted to extend out to the community because I always think about it in terms of, well, first I think of Shrek with the layers of the onion that Donkey is describing the ogre having.
Of course.
But that, at the heart of it, that Loudoun Now is news, and that, community journalism is just, God, it's more important now than ever. But around that, you need to have sort of maybe you need to build your own conversation. I really do think that's where local journalism has to go. That there's always been the comment section, for better or for worse, and that is a great place for people to sort of sound off. But I don't know that there's necessarily the conversations that we would hope to be having in those places, or they're happening on Facebook or anywhere else. So to be able to capture those, to be able to elevate some of the people who are most excited about this and really have some value to add to these conversations about what's happening in our community is just, again, it has never been more important than it is right now. So I just wanted to call out some of the people that you had chosen to interview as your initial Tails and Ales folks: Stacey Metcalf and Mike McGrath and Susan Talbot. I mean, grade A people, and people who can obviously weave a good story, but people that should have a larger voice in this as well.
Yeah, to your point, that's exactly right. Now Loudoun Now has now been a nonprofit for a couple of years, and so we now get to make mission-based decisions, which means that our first decision always is, okay, so what's going to serve our mission? What's going to serve the community, which is what we're here to do. And this is another way to do that for us, essentially, which is to say, yeah, we in the newsroom don't, we have limited time to have all of these conversations, but a lot of these conversations don't need our help. There's folks who can do this, with just the platform access. To your point, the tools like the tool we're using right now haven't existed that long. So we are now finally at a point where we are able to stand up a tool that is just very easy to where anybody really, we've said for a long time, if you've got a camera phone, you can, you can be a content creator, you can have your own show and so forth. And to an extent, that's true. But now we actually have the tools to make that truly the case where, yeah, you can have a professional looking, slickly produced program pretty easily with very little involvement. And it has been fun to talk to the people that we've talked to. The three you mentioned are obviously fantastic folks, and I had a lot of fun talking to them. There's another program called Loudoun Lately, which I and my friend Jennifer Montgomery host. In her day job, she is the CEO of Loudoun Hunger Relief. But for this, we kind of both take off our work hats and we just go talk to some interesting people. Our first episode was talking to Beth Erickson, who's the CEO of Visit Loudoun, about, again, taking our work hats off, but what's a great way to make the most of your summer in Loudoun? What's the best way to celebrate in the warm weather? And she's pretty well positioned to know all that. We had a great conversation. Great advice, like, hey, whenever you're at some new place in Loudoun, for a winery or brewery, for example, if you're doing a craft beverage trip, take some time to talk to some of the people working there, because they will know about all kinds of stuff you never suspected existed in Loudoun County and point you at really fun things. And it's fun to have those kind of conversations and speak to people whose voices you and I may know are just exceptional people with a lot of interesting things to say. Now, not only can we get those voices directly out into the world, but also for more of those folks who I haven't met yet, who I don't know, yet, they can call us up and say, hey, actually, I'm part of an interesting community and I've got something to say, or I am the expert on this topic and I've got something to say. I think that serves our mission of just exactly as you say, doing more to connect across Loudoun County and help people feel connected and know about what's going on in their community and the community that's the closest to them.
Such a good point. Have you ever encountered Humans of New York?
Yes.
I am
So
such a
good
fan
comparison.
of that. Yeah, it really is. That was back when I was with Loudoun Economic Development. I helped launch their Instagram account back in 2016, I think it was. And I just said at the time, I said, hey, I'm going to straight rip off this guy's idea. I think that there are cool people doing cool things in Loudoun County. And, it was one of those, it was a different time then, but, for a government social media platform to gain followers like we did at that time, just by, again, going into businesses. Gosh, I'm trying to remember. I think one of them was there was a bartender at Alamo Draft House, I want to say, who had like, multiple master's degrees and, but just liked talking to people and would rather do that, and it's just you can't go anywhere in Loudoun County without finding really fascinating people who have a story to tell. So always good to start with the Jennifer Montgomerys and Beth Ericksons of the world, but I think you could walk out on King Street where you are and probably just set up shop and have a blast doing that too. Today's episode of Think Outside the Box with Pounce is brought to you by deadlines. For when we all agree it's a good idea, but I really need my coffee and anxiety to kick in to get things done, I have deadlines. I used to be late on projects until I discovered deadlines. Because nothing inspires productivity and creativity like the crushing weight of time and someone else's expectations. Get deadlines today.
It's funny, and I don't know if this will be useful for this program or not, but I still remember a story when I first came to Loudoun Now as just a junior reporter. Wow. 10 years ago now. I left from the northern neck of Virginia where I was covering a big debate over power lines. And this will sound very familiar today, it was Dominion Energy wanted to put new power lines along what's called the Norris Bridge out there, and made some people upset, and they wanted them to run the power lines underground, under the river and everything else. And I left there, arrived here in Loudoun County at Loudoun Now, and it was just being started. And I ran into the exact same people from Dominion because they were having the exact same fight up here. But up here, a bunch of engineers showed up with sketch plans for how to do it. Where I was coming from, they had the idea of like, yeah, you can put this underground, right? And up here, of course, there's just so much knowledge in Loudoun County that they had gotten out in front of some of the power line folks on that. So it is an amazing community. Loudoun County is a pretty amazing place, and it's fun to talk to people here.
It really is, yeah. So tell me a little bit more about that. So Northern Neck, what was your path before that? Because you've got a good set of pipes too. So did you ever do any time in radio?
In college, I managed our college radio is a small college, so don't get too excited. It's a small college called Emory and Henry, and I managed the radio station there. And then I did work while I was in college at radio stations, and I sort of fell into newspapers almost by accident. Found out, I've always been look for the right window and jump through it, and I landed into something that I ended up really loving, which is community journalism. I've never had any aspirations of working for it's not to say I don't have enormous respect for the journalists who do amazing work at like big national publications and so forth, but my dream job is to be a reporter in the smallest possible community and just get into all the little parts of, what's going on in that community. So I worked at a few papers. As I said before, I worked at Loudoun Now. I worked at a paper called the Rappahannock Record, which is another one of the few remaining fully independent papers that exist. That's been family owned for, I don't know, through several generations of technology for actually printing a paper. And then Loudoun Now, as I say, is one of the few remaining independent news outlets, and we're a nonprofit outlet to boot here in Loudoun County.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about the decision to go nonprofit, because it's kind of a genius play when you think about it. So what opportunities does that unlock for you guys?
Well, it really does a couple things. One of the big ones, of course, is that it opens up new avenues of funding for us. We're able to, the community, we have never really charged people to access our reporting because we think it's a community service, and we never want to put up a wall between our reporting and the community that we serve with it. This, however, gives folks an opportunity to say, well, okay, but this is valuable to me. I want to pitch in $10 a month or $20 a month or something like that and support that journalism. Tied to that is the idea that because we don't have any sort of larger corporation or venture capital or anything else behind us, we are able to make mission-based decisions. So everything that we do is not toward trying to squeeze any kind of profit out of the paper. It's a tough thing to try to do with a local paper anyway. Right. And it allows us to drive all of that towards doing better reporting. I mean, a lot of the revenues that we'll be able to generate through this Loudoun Now Voice are going to go back into supporting the newsroom. They're going to help us hire more reporters and do more reporting and serve more communities and do better at the job that we want to do. That's really those two things go hand in hand, and that's really why a newsroom like ours benefits, I think, so enormously from being a nonprofit. And the other good news is it seems like the community by and large has supported us on that. We've had decently good success. It's a little bit of a gamble when you go out to the community and say, hey, up to now we've been a private, for-profit venture, and now we want to go out and we want to be a nonprofit, and we want you to consider supporting the work that we're doing. It was very possible people would have said, no, manage your own business. There's plenty of other nonprofits to choose from out there. But I'm happy to say that a lot of people have supported Loudoun Now. Doesn't mean we're not always looking for more people to support Loudoun Now, of course. But yes, I'm happy to say that I think it's been well, for me, I've seen it as another reflection of the relationship with the community, which, to your point earlier, is what really is at the heart of what this is. I mean, a local newspaper in a lot of ways is a community talking to itself. And that staying connected to the community and keeping those strong ties is what's going to make all the difference for us.
Well, and not to make this too much of a current news event type of piece, but I mean, there's just been some wild stuff going on in the towns recently that, if not for local journalism, not to say that it hasn't been covered by DC and national folks as well, because it's kind of crazy, but there would be no last mile there to kind of make that connection. They're reading your reporting before running, national TV stories and again, paper of record sort of pieces on that. So, what has that experience been like? Of course, I'm talking about our friends in Percival. You've been here for several cycles of really big national stories that come out of Loudoun County that would not come out of Loudoun County otherwise.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, the way the news ecosystem works is that a lot of stories that you see in the Washington Post or the New York Times or anything else originated with a local paper, especially anything that pertains to local community. If it wasn't for somebody in the room in a town government, then most of the people even in that town would probably never know what's going on in there, because it's, the idea of open government, which is so important, has another piece to it, which is that there should be someone who has the time to actually sit in all those meetings and has the expertise to know what they're looking at and how to get additional information and how to be skeptical and say, that doesn't sound quite right to me. So that's the way the news ecosystem works. And that's back to serving the community. I mean, that government watchdog role has always been one of the first priorities for our newsroom. That's always been a way that we've sort of built our news, is around government watchdog stuff and just finding out what's going on. It takes a lot of hours. It takes a lot of getting shouted at. Once in a while, someone makes up a conspiracy theory about you or something, and that's all fine. That's all part of the job.
Any good conspiracy theories?
Oh, gosh, I almost hate to repeat them, but yeah, I mean, there's always it's for us, it's usually some variation of a secret media conspiracy, which is often it is that we are conspiring with a different politician. But I can tell you, I don't think there's any politician still standing that would be willing to conspire with us, because we're not. Nobody really gets a pass. So
that's right. Yeah, that's good. Well, I'll keep my eye out for some better theories out there. But
yeah, if you could come up with some, it'd be fun.
All right, I'll plant a few. So tell me a little bit more about your team, because you've got a pretty good, scrappy team over there, but also a lot of experience. So just to back that out, I mean, you returned to the paper earlier this year, and in a new role, new capacity, and with a team that has some overlap with the team that you worked with before. But talk through your roster a little bit.
One of the great strengths that we enjoy in our organization is our team. So on the one hand, as you say, we've got Norm Steyer is our executive editor, and he's got by far the most journalism experience of anyone in Loudoun County, and pretty much almost anyone that I've met, really. I mean, he's got just decades of experience under his belt. A lot of it here in Loudoun County. I mean, he's a fixture in Loudoun County. His wife, Susan Steyer, is our advertising director, and she has all these connections from that. She's a local Loudoun girl, and so she knows everybody. She's got all these connections. If you want to know how to get something sold in Loudoun County, she's kind of the person to talk to. And then our newsroom, we've got Hannah Pampaloni, Hannah actually worked here last time I worked here. And she was sort of the last hire that I was here for as deputy editor. And I was so blown away with her then. And now I come back and I'm even more blown away with her. So part of what's come out of this new platform of trying to make this sort of voice, of helping people get their voice out there and making that more accessible to them, has also been improving our abilities within the newsroom to be agile and digital first and multimedia and so forth, because that's something that we need to be doing, and we are doing. Some of the same tools that have allowed us to expand that for Loudoun Now Voice have also just been extremely useful for Loudoun Now inside the newsroom. Anna has been exceptionally good at that. She's a fast learner, she's sharp, in addition to being just truly an incredible reporter. I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say that she's one of the best reporters I've ever worked with. Our reporters have dived into that. All our reporters, as the norm, are younger than you and I, without putting any numbers to it. So,
that's right.
And so they've jumped in with both feet. And then Will Will Tim, for example. Will Tim is one of our reporters. He's got a real knack for video in particular. For example, a while ago, we partnered with Leesburg Movement, which is an organization of downtown businesses in Leesburg to promote Restaurant Week. And for part of that, Will went out and he did profiles in each of the restaurants and kind of what's their exciting menu things they're doing that week. And he did a great job. And I also had someone message me, hey, congratulations for getting a cute boy to do your Restaurant Week promo. So he's just all around a natural for it. And actually, right now, we've even got one of the great things I will say about Loudoun Now is that we also get an unusually good quality of intern, which seems like a little bit of a random thing to bring up, but right now we've got two, Patrick, who's a junior at American, and Bridget, who just joined with us, and they've both just done exceptional work already, just jumping in. These are young folks. You know, whenever we get interns who are Loudoun County kids, I'm always like, don't apply for my job when your internship's over, because I'm not sure I'll be able to compete much longer with some of these folks.
Yeah, I mean, the caliber of students, even at the high school level. I mean, you guys hosted the first ever high school journalism awards this year with some tremendous sponsor support there, and I mean, just amazing work that's coming out of our high schools right here in Loudoun County. So there's a pipeline and an opportunity here if people want to fall into the profession. And again, I don't think you and I need to say how important it is, but yeah, I mean, just being able to come into this, stay in your own community and be able to tell the story of it. I really think that's the role of what Loudoun Now can and should be. And that's kind of what local journalism is at its best.
And I'm glad you brought up the Excellence in High School Journalism Awards, because they are one of my favorite things that I've seen Loudoun Now do. So that, yes, that was sponsored by Google and a number of other great partners. We were able to do a contest for high school journalists all across Loudoun County. And I was actually on one of the judging committees for that before I came back to work at Loudoun Now. And the caliber of submissions whenever you have one of these, everyone always says it was so tough to choose a winner. You know, about half the time that's actually true. But it was truly, in this case, that we really had to rack our brains and debate back and forth over picking winners in each of these categories, because these students are turning out such amazing stuff. Then, you know, when you have an event like this, especially for the first time, you're very nervous about, okay, so what kind of engagement are we going to get? Is people going to show up to our awards? Are all our winners going to bother to come to this thing? Because teenagers, and they've got stuff going on. Probably my favorite thing about the whole program was that a bunch of high schoolers showed up. They brought all their friends. And so every time someone from one high school or another was announced as a winner, everybody from that high school would stand up and scream and shout. And so that energy that they brought into it really gave me a lot of hope. Because, you know, we need more kids like that to decide to make a path into journalism, more of those outstanding young minds. You know, I saw some stuff there that gave me a lot of hope. There's some really great young journalists out there, and I hope a lot of them decide to try to make a career out of it.
Well, I think another way to kind of gauge the success of Loudoun Now is not only the team that you have, but the team that has, I think, come here because of the opportunity for Loudoun Now and has gone on to do other amazing things as well. I used to count you in this group as well, but you have circled back around, which is awesome.
What did I do wrong?
That's right. No, he's back. But, you know, our mutuals, Danielle Nadler, of course, Alexis Gustin, who's part of my team, Margaret Morton, Kara Rodriguez, you know, people that are out there doing amazing things in the community who, you know, I think really get it. When you're a reporter and you have that in your blood and you have that anywhere in your background, you can't help but see Loudoun for the amazing story that it has. And so it's amazing when those people go out and sort of apply that knowledge into nonprofits and even for profits, you know, really weave that tale for other communities to be able to see Loudoun for all that it is. And I think that's a really nice testament to the work that Loudoun Now does in training the reporters and kind of showing them the right way to do that. And it makes a big difference in this community. That's what it's all about.
I've had the privilege to work alongside some pretty awesome people. I mean, you mentioned Danielle. She's now the executive director of Loudoun Education Foundation, which they just, I mean, I take all day to list all the cool things that they do. And she was the one who hired me here. And actually now she's on our board of directors. And I'll tell a story about the creation of Loudoun Now.
Do it. Let's do it.
Okay. Yeah, I've had the great privilege to work with some pretty amazing folks here. Danielle Nadler, who you mentioned, she actually is the one who hired me. So way back, the way I came to Loudoun County so many years ago was, again, I was working at a paper called the Rappahannock Record. I met Danielle, actually I met her husband first, at a Virginia Press Association event down in Glen Allen. So this is the statewide organization for news organizations in Virginia. And at the time, she was an editor at a publication called Leesburg Today. And I got talking with them. I came up, I interviewed. I was all set to go ahead and resign from my job and move up here to Loudoun County. And pretty much it was that year, it was around that time that Leesburg Today was bought and closed on sort of day of. Everyone got called in on a print deadline and said, all right, today's your last day. Everybody finish the paper for this week and go home.
Unreal.
So Danielle called me up and said, well, I'm sorry, I don't really have a job for you anymore because I don't really have a job anymore. And I was like, oh, all right, well, I guess I got to find the next thing. And then a few days later, they get in touch again and say, hey, we're starting a new paper. Would you like to come up and be part of that? And of course, in my head, I was like, with the business trends in local news, I was like, this is going to fold within a year, but I'll go be part of it. It'll be a fun adventure. And now here I am 10 years later. So that's all, a lot of that is because I ran into Danielle, and that's just the sort of impact she has on people around her sometimes. And she's now the executive director of the Loudoun Education Foundation, I might have said. And like I said, you just can't even count the number of amazing things she does there. And she's also on our board of directors. I also got the chance to work with Margaret Morton, who's now a Loudoun Laurel. She's a Loudoun laureate just for her many years of everything she's done in leadership and including in reporting. She, I think at the time they might have called her the Grande Dame of Loudoun journalism or something at the time in the Laurels. I mean, it was a very cool thing. You work with Alexis Gustin, who is just, I had the opportunity to work with her when I was deputy editor, and she's really sharp. And I think the defining feature of Alexis that the rest of us could aspire to is basically her compassion. I mean, yes. She felt every story she did very deeply, and she really that was where she started from, was that service idea. How do I take care of the people that I serve here? Kara, who used to work with us, she covered Leesburg for us for a long time, and she left for a while, and now she's back. She's actually she's a PIO for the town of Leesburg, so she's in civil service now. So it is notable to me that everybody who has worked at Loudoun Now and left, most of them went into some other kind of serving people, some other kind of service. So yeah, I'm happy to say I've got to work with some really great folks and continue to work with some really great folks at the paper.
Yeah, I mean, to a person, all amazing humans. And I think you and I could talk about how much we appreciate Danielle for all of it that she has done for our careers in various ways. It's an incredible connection right here through Loudoun Now, and really appreciate bending your ear on all of this today. Want to give you a chance, since Loudoun Now Voice is I can't say hot off the press, but is live and ready to roll. Give us our plugs on that.
So you can find it at loudounnow.com/voice, and you'll also find it on your social media of choice, Loudoun Now Voice. You just look it up and we'll be there. As you're watching this, we'll have a number of episodes of different programs already ready for you to go ahead and catch up and see what we're up to and see if it works for you. If you think that you would like to have a program on Loudoun Now Voice, just email us at voice@loudounnow.org. We'll get talking. We'll see what works for you. It's very case by case. So we'll see, if there's something there that works for you and what that would look like. And of course, if you'd like to advertise or sponsor a program on Loudoun Now Voice, you can always contact us at sales@loudounnow.org.
Amazing stuff. And I will also throw in the additional plug. Wherever they are creating content, Loudoun Now is doing amazing work. So do follow them on social media, go to their website, bookmark it, download the mobile app, go to your favorite podcatcher and follow along with the Morning Minute and all of the great work that they're doing there, because this is what it's all about. And if you like it, then support it, and there will be more of it. So that's the good news. And Renss, appreciate your leadership, appreciate you talking through this today, and looking forward to talking to the rest of your team in the next few weeks.
Brian, thank you so much. It's always have a great time catching up, man. So I appreciate you talking to me for a little bit about this. It's something we're very excited about.